In 2026, there are four continuous glucose monitors, frequently referred to as CGM, you can buy in the United States. Two require a prescription. Two you can order on Amazon tonight without ever talking to a doctor. They are not the same device. They are designed for very different patients with very different needs, and choosing the wrong one or not choosing one at all is a mistake that happens more often than it should. I'm Dr. Kurt Hong. I'm a professor of medicine and gerontology at USC. Today I'm going to walk you through all four devices, the differences that actually matter, who should use each one, what to look for in your data, and my clinical bottom line. This will take about 7 minutes. Before I compare the devices, let me explain what a CGM actually is, because I find many people have a vague idea but not a clear picture. A CGM is a small sensor, roughly the size of a coin, that you apply to the back of your upper arm. A hair-thin, flexible filament sits just beneath the skin, measuring glucose levels in the fluid between your cells every few minutes around the clock. That data streams wirelessly to your phone. No lancets, no finger sticks, no manual testing. What this gives you is something a standard lab test can never provide. Continuous real-time visibility into how your glucose responds to food, exercise, stress, sleep, and everything else you do during the day. For example, a meal that feels completely fine can send blood sugar to 180 milligrams per deciliter and back down within 90 minutes with zero symptoms. A CGM makes that visible. That matters whether you have diabetes, prediabetes, or no metabolic diagnosis at all. 30 million Americans have prediabetes, 96% don't know it. A CGM worn for 2 weeks gives you more metabolic information than a decade of annual fasting glucose tests. There are four devices on the market in 2026. Let me give you the landscape before we go into detail. The first category is prescription CGMs. These are FDA-cleared medical devices for managing diabetes. The two options are the Dexcom G7 and the Abbott FreeStyle Libre 3 Plus. Both require a doctor's prescription. Both include alarms for high and low blood sugar. Both are covered by most insurance plans for patients who qualify. Both can be used with insulin pumps and connect to automated insulin delivery systems. The second category is over-the-counter CGMs. New as of 2024 and now firmly mainstream. The two options are the Dexcom Stelo and the Abbott Lingo. No prescription, no doctor's visit. You order them online, they arrive at your door, and you apply them yourself. They don't have alarms. They are not designed for insulin users or people at risk of hypoglycemia. They are designed for metabolic awareness. The most important question you should ask is not which CGM is best. Rather, it should be, which category do I belong in? Here are the specs that matter most across all four devices. Wear time. G7 is 10 days. Libre 3 Plus, Stelo, and Lingo are all 14 to 15 days. Longer wear is a real convenience advantage if the sensor stays adhesive, and that caveat matters. Warmup. G7 warms up in 30 minutes. All three others take 60. That 30-minute advantage is clinically meaningful for patients who need reliable data from the moment a sensor goes on. For most wellness users, it doesn't matter. Alarms. G7 and Libre 3 Plus have full customizable alarms for high and low glucose. Stelo and Lingo have none. This is a safety feature, not a preference. If you are at risk for hypoglycemia, you need a prescription device with alarms. Cash prices. G7 runs around $120 or more per sensor without insurance. Libre 3 Plus is the least expensive prescription option at around $70 to $75 per month with the manufacturer coupon. Stelo and Lingo are both $89 per month on subscription. Provider data sharing. G7, Libre 3 Plus, and Stelo all make it straightforward to share your CGM data with a clinician. Lingo makes this harder, a meaningful limitation if you're using CGM as part of a care relationship. Now let me get specific about patient profiles. Dexcom G7. If you use insulin, this is your device. Pump compatible, fastest warm-up, the most established integration with automated insulin delivery systems like Tandem and Omnipod. If you have type 1 diabetes or insulin-dependent type 2, this is the standard, full stop. Libre 3 Plus. If you need a prescription CGM but are paying cash, or if you want the smallest, most discreet sensor on the market, this is your device. It is the least expensive prescription option. Slightly larger MAR than the G7 and limited pump integration, but for the majority of patients who don't need pump connectivity, the difference is not clinically meaningful. Dexcom Stelo. This is the OTC device I recommend most often in clinical contexts. It's designed for adults with prediabetes or non-insulin dependent type 2 diabetes and for wellness-motivated adults without a diagnosis. Critically, it is currently the only over-the-counter CGM that supports straightforward data sharing with a healthcare provider. If you want CGM data to be part of a clinical conversation, this is the OTC choice. Abbott Lingo. This is for wellness-oriented adults with no diabetes diagnosis. It is not cleared for use in diabetic patients. The app is gamified and coaching-focused. It's a good lifestyle tool, but I would steer any patient with a clinical metabolic concern towards Stelo instead. One non-negotiable important point. If you use insulin or if you are at risk for hypoglycemia, you need a prescription CGM with alarms. OTC devices are not safe for you. I want to address accuracy directly because it is often overweighted in these comparisons. All four devices perform well by clinical standards. The G7 leads with a MARD of about 8.2%. Libre 3 Plus is 8.4%. Stelo is around 8.7%. Lingo is approximately 9%. The spread is less than 1%. In 2026, accuracy is not the decision variable it was 5 years ago. Two technology facts I want you to understand. First, CGMs do not measure blood glucose. They measure glucose in the interstitial fluid, the fluid between your cells. There is a 5 to 15 minute physiological lag behind your actual blood glucose level. This matters when glucose is moving quickly. If you eat a fast-acting carbohydrate and test immediately, the CGM will be behind the blood. This is expected physiology, not device error. Second, adhesion is the underreported problem. A 15-day sensor only delivers 15 days of value if it stays on your arm for 15 days. Active patients, swimmers, and people with sensitive skin often need an overpatch regardless of brand. Plan for this. One important point to emphasize here, the real differentiators in 2026 are alarms, cost, insulin compatibility, provider data sharing, and adhesion, not raw accuracy. Talking about the cost, the situation depends heavily on whether your insurance covers CGM. If you use insulin or have documented hypoglycemia, your insurance very likely covers either the G7 or the Libre 3 Plus, often for little to no copay. Run your formulary before choosing between them. If you're paying cash for a prescription CGM, the Libre 3 Plus at $70 to $75 per month using the manufacturer coupon is the lowest cost option available. The G7 runs meaningfully more. If you're in the over-the-counter category, Stelo and Lingo are both $89 per month on subscription. Both are HSA and FSA eligible, which effectively brings the after-tax cost down for people with those accounts. Lingo also offers a single $49 sensor, a 15-day trial, which is a reasonable way to experiment before committing. Important, no insurance plan currently covers over-the-counter CGMs for non-medical use. You will pay out of pocket. The device is only useful if you know what to look for. Here are the three numbers that matter. Time and range, the percentage of time your glucose stays between 70 and 140 milligrams per deciliter. For non-diabetic adults, the goal is 96% or above. This is the single most informative CGM metric. Postprandial spikes, how high glucose rises after eating and how quickly it returns. The goal is staying under 140 milligrams per deciliter after meals. This is the variable most directly shaped by what and when you eat. Glucose variability, the coefficient of variation, how much your glucose swings day to day. A coefficient of variation under 36% is the target. High variability, even within a technically normal average, is associated with worse metabolic outcomes. A few patterns worth watching. Most patients are genuinely surprised to find their morning oatmeal or fruit breakfast produces the largest glucose spike of their day. Aerobic exercise drops glucose. Intense resistance training can briefly raise it via cortisol, and alcohol first raises then suppresses glucose, often causing a hidden low in the early morning hours that no static test would ever catch. Let me give you the framework I actually use with patients. Question 1. Do you use insulin? If yes, G7, non-negotiable. Nothing else on this list is appropriate as your primary CGM. Question 2. Are you on a medication that can cause hypoglycemia? If yes, prescription only. G7 or Libre 3 Plus. Question 3. Does your insurance cover CGM? If yes, use a prescription model and let your insurance absorb the cost. Check your formulary to see which of the two your plan prefers. Question 4. Do you have prediabetes or non-insulin dependent type 2 diabetes? Stelo. It's designed for you. It's available without a prescription, and it's the only OTC device that makes clinical data sharing straightforward. Question 5. No diagnosis, just curious about your metabolic health? Stelo or Lingo, personal preference. If you think you'll want to show the data to a physician or dietitian, lean towards Stelo, and across all categories. If you want to share your CGM data with a healthcare provider, the G7, Libre 3 Plus, and Stelo all support this well. Lingo currently does not. Here's the bottom line. If you use insulin, G7. If you need a prescription, CGM but want lower cost, Libre 3 Plus. If you have prediabetes or non-insulin type 2 and want OTC access, Stelo. If you have no diagnosis and want metabolic awareness, Stelo or Lingo. CGM technology crossed a threshold in 2024. Anyone who wants to understand their own metabolic biology can now do so without a prescription, without a doctor's appointment, and for about the cost of a daily coffee. The question is no longer whether you can access a CGM. The question is, which one is right for you? Full comparison guide with all device, please visit use@kurthongmd.com. If this helped, please share it.